Hey guys, it's your girl, Sam Manuel. A lot of you may not know, but I am a huge fan of Greek mythology. So today I plan to read to you one of my favorites, not my favorite, but this is one of my favorite stories out of Greek mythology, myths and legends and things of that nature. And I hope you like it. This is the story of Acis and Galatea. On the rocky coast of Sicily once lived the giant Cyclops called Polyphemus. He was the son of Neptune, but he despised both gods and men. In the middle of his forehead was set one great eye, an eye which later on he was destined to lose at the hands of the Greek hero Ulysses on his return from Troy. His mind was rough and churlish, as was his great hairy body. Indeed, it was no pleasure to look at him or to be near him. Once, as he wandered along the shore, supporting his heavy steps on a huge staff as tall as the mast of a ship, and feeding his flocks of sheep, he caught sight of the sea nymph Galatea, and immediately, so far as anything so uncouth could feel love, he fell in love with her. She, however, loved the young shepherd Acis, and he returned her love, keeping himself for her alone. As for the Cyclops, Galatea hated him and his wooing, almost as much as she loved her Acis. Yet this did not make the Cyclops give up his attempts to win her heart. He forgot his flocks and his caves with their stores of cheeses and of milk. Now he began to think of his appearance and of how he could become charming. He combed his shaggy hair with a rake, and he cut off his stiff beard with a sickle. Then he would look at his rough face in a pool of water and try to make the expression more pleasing. There was a high promontory, which, shaped like a wedge, jutted out into the sea, with water on either side of it. Here the savage Cyclops climbed up and sat down. His woolly sheep followed him at random, since he paid no attention to them. In front of his feet he drew down his great staff and took out his pipe, which was made of 100 reeds. The mountains all around felt the sound of his piping, and Galatea herself, who, in the shelter of a rock a long way away, was resting in the arms of Acis, heard clearly the words that the Cyclops sang. "O Galatea," he sang, "you who are whiter than the leaves of the snowy privet, more like a flower than all the flowery meadows, standing straight and tall as the elder tree, brighter than crystal, gay and playful as a young kid, smoother than shells polished by the rolling waves, more lovely than the sun in the winter or the shade in the summer, more glorious than apples, more to be admired than the tall plane tree, shining more brightly than ice, sweeter than the ripe grape, softer than the swan's down or curdled milk. Oh, if only you would not run away from me, more beautiful than a fresh green garden, and yet, Galatea, you are more headstrong than an untamed heifer, harder than an old oak wood, falser than water, tougher than willow twigs, less to be moved than these rocks, more violent than a river torrent, vainer than a peacock when it is praised, fiercer than fire, sharper than thorns, more surely than a she-bear with young, deafer than sea water, more relentless than a snake that is trodden on, and this, particularly, I would like you not to be, more fleet on foot, not only than a stag before the hounds, but even then the winds and the flying breezes. If only you knew me well, you would wish that you had not fled from me. I have a whole mountainside to live in, deep caves where the sun's heat never comes in summer, nor does the cold in winter. In my orchard the boughs are weighed down with apples. On my vines grow grapes as yellow as gold, and purple grapes as well. Both kinds are meant for you. You, with your own hands, will be able to pick in the shady woods the wild strawberries, cherries in autumn, and plums, not only the juicy black kind, but also the big yellow ones that look like wax. If you marry me, you could have chestnuts as well, and all the trees will be your servants. Then there are my flocks, so many that I do not bother to count them, my goats and my kids, and always plenty of snow-white milk. And if you want a pet to play with, I should not give you anything ordinary or common like a fawn or a hare or a kid, a pair of doves, or a nest of birds taken from a rock. No, I have to give you 2 bear cubs for you to play with, so like each other that you could not tell them apart. When I found them, I said, I'll keep these for the girl I love. Oh, come now, Galatea, raise your bright head from the blue sea, and do not despise what I offer you. I have a good idea of myself now, since I recently looked at my face in the mirror of a clear pool. I liked what I saw. Look how big I am. A great mass of hair juts out my forehead and falls over my shoulders like a forest. You must not think it ugly to be covered all over the body, as I am with thick shaggy hair. Trees are ugly without their leaves, and sheep without their wool. Men, too, ought to be covered in bristling hair like mine. It is true that I only have one eye in the middle of my forehead, but this eye is as big as a cartwheel. Oh, Galatea, I fear none of the gods, but I fear you in your anger. It would be easier to bear your refusal of me if you refused everyone else. How is it that you can love Acis and prefer him to me? I wish I can get near him. He'd soon find out what strength there is in me. I'd tear his heart out of his body. I'd pull his pieces limb from limb and scatter the pieces all over the fields and over the waters of your sea. For I am on fire with love, and all the more on fire because I am rejected. It seems as though I have a volcano in my heart, and you, Galatea, do not mind at all. So the Cyclops sang and roared over the sea. Then he got to his feet and wandered restlessly about, just as a bull, furious when the cow is taken from him, cannot stand still but paces through the woods and well-known pastures. Suddenly he saw Galatea and Acis hiding under the rock in each other's arms. I see you, he shouted out, and I will make sure that this meeting of yours will be your last. His huge, terrible cries made the whole of Etna ring and re-echo with the sound. Galatea, in terror, sprang back into the sea and dived beneath the waves. Acis turned to run, but the Cyclops ran after him, tore a great piece from a mountainside, and hurled it at the young man. Only the corner of the huge mass reached him, but it was enough to bury him entirely beneath the earth and rock. The gods had pity on Acis. Through the earth beneath which he was buried, first crimson blood began to ooze up. Then, after a little time, the red color began to fade away. Now the color was like muddy river water, swollen by a storm. Then the great mass of rock cracked open, and a tall green reed shot up through the crack. Next, through the opening came a stream of bright leaping water, a new fresh river, and, standing waist-high in the stream, appeared the god of the river, a beautiful youth, with small fresh-grown horns all wreathed with shiny reeds upon his forehead. This was Acis, just as he had been, except for the horns, and except that he was bigger. The river joined its waters with the sea, and was called after its own god. That's one of my favorites.